All right. Hello. Welcome to Mystical Mindset. And today we are going to talk about your beliefs and your life. And I know we all have those things that we don't even want to admit or talk about or anything like that. But it's there. And we need to kind of like focus on it and talk about it and see the patterns that are happening within our world and our life so that way we can move on and move past everything. And so there's 3 of us on right now. We have a 4th one trying to come on. So as soon as the other one come on, we'll let her pop on in. But to get started, Althea, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Well, good morning, everybody. I'm Althea. I am certified emotion code practitioner. I own the business Direct Emotion LLC. You can get a hold of me on Facebook through Direct Emotion LLC, or you can message me directly at Althea Mitchell. You can also take a gander at my YouTube channel at Direct Emotion LLC, where you can learn some of the emotional causes behind some of the physical ailments.
Cool. Shania, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
My name is Shania Melland. I have the business of Soul Therapy, where I do healings and mediumship and tarot angel cards. I'm on Facebook under Soul Therapy or under my personal name, which is Shania Melland.
All right. And I am Majestic Michelle, and I work with the Akashic Records to help people heal the negative emotions trapped and caused by their trauma of their childhood or anything they brought into this lifetime. And you can get hold of me at healingwithmichelleadams.com, Healing with Michelle Adams on Facebook, or even on this group page if you're watching in Mystical Mindset right now. So today we have a loaded topic for you. This one here, I know we've all thought about it from time to time. And so, there's a story that has been told many times that there's this little old lady that has, cut out the butt of the roast and put it in the pan and put it in the oven. And then it was like, when she was older, her daughter's like, Mom, why do you do that? And she's like, oh, it's because my mom did it. And basically what it came down to is that her mom did it because the pan wasn't big enough for the whole roast. And so they would have to cut part of it off to fit into the pan. And so now we're going to talk about like our beliefs, our lives. Someplace times like where do they come from? And if we question any of them or if we actually didn't question them. So that way we can move through this world. Althea, so what are some of the major things like in your life that comes up when we say about your belief in your life?
Oh, this is always interesting because, so I was born and raised in a religious household. We went to church every Sunday, and, we were taught about God. We were taught about being good. We were taught about, the 10 Commandments. And, what I have found, so in my teenage years, I kind of stopped going to church, started making some life choices that were not always the best, but fun at the time. And I've been working on not living with regret. So it is about going back and making amends for the things that I have done to individuals and to myself, of course. But really what I've come to find out is the more I got into kind of this alternative health, alternative healing, alternative whatever it is that you name it, I have found that it has kind of elaborated and opened my mind up back to my religion growing up with and what I was taught. There was a lot of things that I think were taught that they didn't have the full knowledge of. And there's still things that I'm learning that I still don't have the full knowledge of. But how they've been able to interact has been quite interesting, because I am a firm believer in the law of forgiveness. And that is something that I think is kind of universal. We all talk about it in the different realms. but to really understand and kind of go in depth of what, even how the 10 Commandments, if you completely understand them, which I still don't, just because there is a lot of elaboration, then it's like the 10 Commandments is a great guideline. It is one of the best guidelines to work within if you want to be able to activate the other laws. So that's where I kind of am like, wow, this is quite interesting. And it has kind of perked up my belief in how useful literally the 10 Commandments are. So that's where I'm kind of at, like utilizing, understanding, and incorporating.
Cool. I know for me, it's been a journey because growing up one way and seeing and knowing internally of something else, it's been really difficult to actually switch all those beliefs from what I've seen and was programmed into what I knew and who I knew that I am. And so it's like when you know, like internally one thing, and you're seeing something completely different, being told something completely different, it is, I think, difficult to actually change that tide without having a lot of stubbornness. And then sometimes that stubbornness comes with not wanting to listen to anyone. We're just going to put that out there because, sometimes I know that to be me. And, it's just been this journey of moving through who I was told to be into who I know that I am. And then realizing too, like with my beliefs and my internal system, how does that fit into this world? And where does it fit into this world? Because we see so many different things and know so many different things, each of us. Like we all don't know the same thing. We all don't get the same information. And that's how we're designed and supposed to happen, because we're supposed to help each other move through as we move through this world. So now it's like going, as we have our beliefs and we move through this world, we interact with them. And this is our beliefs, is what always shows up in our world, you guys. If we're not liking what's showing up in our world, it's not up to your partner. It's not up to your kids. It's not up to your parents to change it. It's up to you. And it's like, and I know this, and it's really like not always the fun part to realize like, oh, I have to change this. Nobody else can and nobody else will. So going through and working through, I've had a few more realizations this last week. That has been an interesting aha moment for me. Yet not really ready to divulge those, but there's other things that, I have worked through with my beliefs that I'm still working through every single day. It's not something that you just work through and we just let it go. So Shania, what about for you and your beliefs, and how do they work out in your life?
So growing up, we were forced to go to confirmation. I was a Lutheran, and I knew that what they were teaching us wasn't the whole truth, or wasn't the answer, or wasn't everything, And so it was very frustrating. I knew there was more out there, and more truth out there. And so kind of like I just kind of shut down, and I just was very frustrated. And so I just kind of stopped listening to them. And I just went through the motions, to get through my classes and stuff like that. There were some things as a teenager that I 100% never believed in, such as reincarnation, that kind of stuff. And, as I'm on the spiritual journey now, there's so much more that I am learning. And some is kind of disappointing, to where my beliefs were, and others are really exciting and stuff. I'm always searching for more answers and how and why and all that stuff. But the main principle, do good, be good, the 10 Commandments, that's what we're here for, is to help one another, to learn, to teach. And so I think that's always been, main foundation, and the other beliefs that come along with that haven't really been all that important, because I know there, like you said, there's so much that we don't know and that we're always learning. And, you know, you guys know things that I don't know. I know things you guys don't know. You know, it's all experience and the journey we're on and the messages we're receiving for us and the people that are put in our path. So nobody's going to have the same exact knowledge. You know, we're all going to know some things the same or similar things, but, you know, some of us know more in-depth information about certain things and stuff. So my beliefs have definitely changed and have grown, and I try to stay open-minded. And it's just, you know, I'm always praying, you know, please, you know, help me to receive more information, to learn more things so I could teach others, help others, you know, so it's always, I'm always growing. I'm always, you know, I try to stay open-minded. There are some things that, you know, when I do learn about them, you know, it's kind of disappointing because it's not exactly what I believed or whatever. So, you know, I kind of pout for a couple of days and then I'm all in, you know, trying to learn, well, why is this? Or, you know, what is the information behind this? Or, you know, whatever. But I do have to go through my little pouting stage, you know, that I wasn't right. But yeah, so yeah, the information's always changing. We're always growing and always learning. But the main thing is do good, be good, you know, and help help one another. So it doesn't matter what God you believe in, what religion you are, you know, it's all about those principles.
So here's a good question. Are your beliefs more based off of nurture or nature?
That's kind of an interesting, that's an interesting perspective, because I think, you know, as you're exploring the laws of nature and everything like that, and you're learning to bounce things here and there, I mean, it comes back to this nurturing thing, whether or not you're going to nurture some of these beliefs that you're hearing and learning. And so I think it can be based off both. And then I think it can also, I think what shocks a lot of us is if we're used to doing it one way and then all of a sudden we start doing it another, or hear that there's another way. So like Shania says, like it takes you for a loop because you're like, oh, maybe I wasn't right about that, you know, and you're like, well, oh, great. Then, you know, you kind of go into this whole big thing of like, well, maybe I wasn't right about anything. And then it's like, no, that's not the truth. The truth is I do know something, you know, and so, I mean, I think it depends, because when you're learning, I mean, that is the law of nature. We are supposed to grow, so we are going to learn. How we nurture that belief is how much attention we start giving to it. So I think it can be both, but I think most of us start off by law of nature.
That's an interesting take on it, because when I read the question, I kind of read it as nurture as your parents and what are they teaching you?
Mm-hmm.
And nature, what do you know internally?
Interesting. I think, sorry, go ahead, Shania.
That's kind of where I was thinking of it too. You know, nurture is, you know, how you were brought up in your religion and in your family, in your community, that kind of thing. And nature is more, you know, what you've kind of learned through spirit, or, you know, through your own, you know, through your own journey and things like that, and how nature has kind of changed some of the things, and, you know, that you've learned through nurture. You know, nurture, I feel, is more of the foundation where it all started, you know, to build that foundation, and nature is what has grown, and the truth of it all is kind of how I see it.
Yeah. But then it's like, when once you realize, like, I mean, sometimes I think the hardest part too is getting through and overcoming the stuff we've been taught, especially if it's been programmed into us so deeply early on. And then you're an adult and you're looking back and you're realizing, going, no, this isn't right. This isn't what I want. So now how do I change this? Because we all know that when there's change, Sometimes change can flow easily. And sometimes the universe is going to go, we're going to dump a bunch of other stuff on you to see if you really want this change. And when it happens, most people stop the healing. They stop because they think, oh, this is too hard. When if they just sat down, went internally, really analyzed and looked at it, then go, okay, no, I'm done. And move on. Yet it's been an interesting, even for my life, like I'm still finding things that have been on the emotional belief that I didn't realize that were even there because they were programmed in so early on that my life has just been running off of them down a daily process, even though I'm like, okay, this is not what I want. This is not what I want. That still is what continue to happen because those emotions become so strong. And it's those emotions that we need to start to release in order to kind of fully make any kind of a change. So here's another one. Do you know why you believe? Do you know why you believe how you do it? Or is it a cradle religion?
I'm not sure what you're meaning by that, I guess.
So I'm trying to like how she wrote this. So I'm thinking, is this more like that automatic religious belief and you're just going off of because it's what everyone does? Or have you seen the realization and go, yeah, no, that's not for me?
Interesting. Very interesting. So one of the things that I have grown up with and was taught and learned is that the saying of through God, all things are possible. With God, all things are possible. That statement right there. So how do you challenge something like that to see if it's true for you? Because this is us down here working through and seeing what works, what doesn't work, right? So we always have to test this theory. Like, okay, how easy is it when you rely on just yourself and your knowledge? Like if you've never changed, let's use the example of a tire. If you've never changed a tire, how easy is it? Like, right? You're like,
right.
Okay, I have this thing and it's supposed to what, But if you go to the owner's manual of the car, it gives you explicit directions, even a step-by-step process on how to apply the lug nut wrench, how to take off the lug nuts, how to apply the jack, how to get everything up, and exactly what to do so that you can do it safely. When we look at these kind of things, how do we know? We have to look at them like that perspective. Like, do you know how to change a tire if you've never changed one? No. Sometimes you don't know how to go about it until you read some instructions. It's kind of like getting that guidance. I think that religious beliefs are a great foundation in all areas because it teaches you kind of some solid things like that there's more to you than you. I think that's a great foundation. Mm-hmm. And I think pretty much everybody else feels that way too. So it's not that it's a bad religious teaching that we're being taught that there's more to us than we realize. I think that's a great thing. I think it's an encouraging thing that we can get out there and find for ourselves really what it is. But I think that I think a cradle religion, I think it's a good foundation. And I'm not going to say that any religion is bad because if they're teaching you to believe that there's something more than just who you are, I think that's a great foundation. And then you can challenge it as you go throughout life and find out for yourself. Is it easier to do it all by yourself or is it easier to have some assistance? Right?
Right. And to me, it's like, I kind of think of the same way, like the cradle religion, like if it's working for you, continue with it.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing wrong with your religion, with your beliefs, as long as they are helping humanity. They're moving things forward and they're working for you.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
So it's like, when we need to stop, like even like dogging on these people for other beliefs. Because if it's working for them, hey, cool, great. You know, we can go that way. So, Shania, what do you think about the credo religion and the beliefs idea?
I agree with both of you. Again, I don't feel like there's any wrong or right religion or belief system. It's all about that foundation, and as long as it's for the greater good, do good, be good, help one another. The 10 Commandments, all that kind of. I mean, and not every religion has the 10 Commandments, but they have the value system of do good, be good.
Mhm.
And that's the main thing. And I agree that you cannot do it alone. So it is good to learn that there is somebody, or something higher than yourself to that you can learn from and seek that guidance from, and give give your trust to them type. There are certain, like, in God's time, everything is in God's timing. That passage to me is very frustrating because I don't have patience and I want it in my timing. So there are things that I challenge too, and even though I know it's not going to work out for myself, but I'm a very stubborn person, and I like that instant gratification. I don't like to wait weeks, months, years, or whenever God thinks it's right for me. I know what's right for me. I'm waiting for the lightning bolt now, but but yeah, I think cradle religion is an awesome foundation for anybody to start their life and their journey on.
Cool. So here's another one. How do you live around people with opposing beliefs and lives?
Easy. I mean, honestly, because it's like, you don't have to agree with everything I say. You don't have to agree with everything that I'm, that's even coming out of my mouth. Like, you don't have to agree with any of that. But it is important that as long as everybody has kind of, the idea that maybe I'm not wrong and this is fitting for me right now. Maybe it will change in 10 years. Maybe it'll change in 5 minutes.
Mhm.
So it's pretty easy to live with other people with other opinions, because it's like that's who we are. We're always going to be different. There's always going to be a different
Right.
thought that you have from me. I mean, always. So it's like I don't see the big deal, honestly. I know a lot of people get very irritated when you don't see it from their point of view, but it's just one of those things where it's like I'm just putting it here. We may agree, we may not agree. Maybe it resonates, maybe it doesn't. Maybe in 3 weeks it will. Who knows?
Mhm. Right.
But it's like I think it's pretty easy to live with other people with other opinions.
Mhm.
I actually like it. I like to hear other perspectives and other beliefs because, we can learn something from everybody, and just because I don't believe in what they're saying doesn't mean that it's not true or it's not one of the truths or, whatever. So there are, bits and pieces of their perspective that I might learn from, or, and so I welcome it. And it's really fun. I don't ever try to change somebody's beliefs or into from what I believe. I don't try to force that on others. And I tell a lot of people when we get in those heavy discussions, I'm not here to prove anything to anybody. The right people who need my information or my help will be put in my path. And but yeah, I don't push my beliefs on anybody, and I welcome their perspective. It's always fun to hear different angles of things and why somebody believes what they believe and what, their experiences in it. So, yeah.
Cool. Yeah, for me, it's like, I don't have a problem with the people with different opinions. My problem is that I'm such a mirroring empath. If they're strong enough, I will start to take on their personality and live that different perspective. And so I need to really watch myself and who I actually hang around with for long periods of time and let into like my inner circle, because of that. Because I've noticed that when I'm around people who are business like minded, I am very business like minded and I can grow my business and I'm making money. When I'm around people who are not, I don't. So it's really important for me to be around those people that have that growth mindset and wanting to do better for themselves on a daily basis. Just because I can fall into so easily with the energy that is moving throughout the universe.
Mhm.
Let's see
Well,
here.
it's easy to give in to those energies. I mean, it really is. I mean, when you're thinking about it and everything. And it's not to say that, I mean, it's easy to live with people with other opinions. It really is. Now, what it does to me internally, now that's a whole different story. And what I allow it to, that's a whole different story. Like, I have no problem with other people's opinions and all of that. But then when I start to thinking about it later on, then it's like, that's when the challenge arises. Because it's like, oh, is that right? Is that not right? Do I do that? Do I not do that? That's where the real struggle comes from. It's really, most of the time I haven't found it outside. It's always usually within. So it's like, oh, you know, I mean, do I really believe that through God all things are possible? Because I see them over there doing that. You know, I mean, it's just one of those things where it's usually a struggle within. It's not usually an outward struggle. It's always usually within. That's what I found anyway.
So, do you walk your talk with your beliefs?
Now, this is always interesting because I'm gonna be the first to say that I wasn't always doing this. Sometimes it's really easy to be self-righteous because it's much easier to see other people's crap than my own.
Mhm.
And so, of course, you know, I hated the saying, "Oh, well, if you don't like something in somebody else, it's usually bringing out the reflected." You know, I mean, honestly, that's how I felt about that for a very long time. And it's like, seriously, that makes me want to choke the person who says that, honestly.
Yeah.
And it's like, because, and then I got to thinking about it and I'm like, maybe it's a quality I wished I had, because maybe if I was like that, I wouldn't be so offended right now. You know, it's a reflection of internal struggle. It's that internal struggle of how you're coming to grips with what you believe and what you don't. I mean, there's things that will challenge us all the time, and that's what this time is for, is to challenge all that kind of stuff. How are you going to grow? Are you going to let it defeat you, or are you going to use it to your benefit? And then how do you use it to your benefit? You know, I mean, because we all know the highest vibration is love. Anything that we do that is not of that is not the highest vibration. So what does that tell us? Okay, well, great. On Tuesdays and Thursdays at 4 and 5, I really suck, you know, and that kind of stuff. But, you know, usually on Saturdays, I'm a little bit better, you know. So I just kind of think it's mostly internal. I'm all this kind of stuff. That's how I think about it, right?
Mm-hmm. Definitely. It's definitely an internal. So it's like as I started on my journey of working with people and really starting to realize my gifts and everything else, I would look back into the friends that I had in high school and the neighborhood and what their lives are like. And I was like, you know, if I would have only taken my own advice, my life would have worked out and ended up so much differently, because their lives and their relationships were like working out perfectly for them. And I'm like, wait a minute, I gave them that advice. I'm like going, because I didn't even realize that I wasn't taking my own advice, that I was just like in that belief of needing to find somebody, to wanting to be with somebody and not knowing who I was and how strong I really am within, you know, my own internal self. And so I started really looking at my life going, maybe I need to start walking my own talk. And if I'm going to give advice to a client, I better be doing it myself. Because if not, then, you know, they're going to call me out on it someday. And so it was really an eye-opener to go, oh, yeah, I think I need to start walking my talk. So, Shania, what about you?
That's I'm really bad at taking my own advice, and I tell my clients that I'm like, this is a lot easier said than done, and I'm still working on this, or I need to work on this, but this would be an awesome tool for you to try, blah blah blah, or whatever. It's always easier to help others than to look to what you need help with, and I'm not one to I can't stand asking for help, and I can't stand focusing on myself. So I love to help other people because then I don't have to look at myself and work on myself.
Well, okay, I got a funny little thing that happened the other day. Speaking of, do you walk your walk, right? Okay, so I was thinking about something, and I was like, okay, I need a new perspective on this. And all of a sudden, a thought entered my brain that I should check the mileage between me and one of my sisters. And so I did, and then I wrote it down. So tell me what kind of message this gives you.
360.
Right?
That's
I'm
awesome.
like, that's very interesting. 360. So I need to do a complete turnaround on this one project. It was very blunt. So I'm like, yep, I'll just write that down on a card. We'll keep that around because sometimes when we're learning to work through it, it's like it is taking the time to make the adjustments and to allow for the growth. Because, when you are learning to walk your walk, it is challenging. And, when you're learning how to take care of yourself, it is challenging, especially if that's something that was never, a thing that was taught or a thing that was pursued after strongly by our group, our group of enforcers, parents, whatever. And I mean, so it's just like you get that advice all the time. You can get it, and you keep getting every day is a new opportunity to make those apply in your life. So today's a new day to do something you said you were going to do. It's keeping your word to yourself. That's really what it comes back to, is honoring yourself through this. It's not, are you truly walking your walk? Because you can give somebody advice and that doesn't necessarily pertain to you or your environment at the time. It may come true later on, or maybe you had it 10 years ago, and so you're able to see that reflection. I think that's the way it should be used. You get called out all the time. You just do. What do you do about it?
Okay, so I know we kind of touched this a little bit earlier, but how do you react when you're confronted with your beliefs and how they're working in your life?
Oh, this is interesting. I'm going to let you go first, Shania.
So, excuse me. I have really, I'm a Saggy, so, I'm pretty blunt and say it how it is type thing. But I've really, really been working on biting my tongue and picking my battles. There are some times that, I do stand my ground, and I'm like, but I tell them that this is for me, this is my belief, or, what works for me. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to believe it or that it's going to work for you or whatever. But when they not berate, but, when they talk down about what your belief is or, whatever, when they're negative about you or your practices or your thoughts or beliefs or whatever, I do stand my ground. And I tell them it's not that I'm right or that you're right. It's just, this is what's working for me. This is my belief. That doesn't mean you have to believe it, but there are other people, I could tell, I'm an empath too. And I could tell who's just trying to pick a fight, or who's, or who is actually just wanting a debate to see my perspective and to see how I'm going to react, because there are a lot of people that feed off of your reaction. So, you got to be careful of who you're choosing your battles with. But, I'm always straightforward. I'm like, this is my belief. That doesn't mean it's your belief, and I'm not here to prove anything to you or whatever, and this is why I believe it, or this is why it works. I try to explain that with when I'm talking about any of my practices or beliefs or whatever. I tell them what it is and why it is, because that just right there kind of backs them down, and just to let them know that it doesn't mean that you have to believe it. But there are plenty of times these days that I just kind of bite my tongue and I just say something simple so that, it doesn't get into an argument or, what they're looking for. That, a lot of people try to trigger me. Well, a lot of people do trigger me, but I'm a lot better now at hiding it and biting my tongue instead of taking the bait.
Oh, I so love that response.
Oh, me too. So yeah, it all depends to me for like what it is. Like if I've already checked in the internal level to see what my beliefs are, yeah, I'm just going to let it fly over, and it's like, okay, whatever, you can say what you want. It doesn't bother me. I've already checked in. It's not going to trigger me. But yet I know it's like if I have that trigger response, I know there's something there that I need to look at because I haven't brought it in internally yet to go, ooh, what is going on with this? So a lot of times when, you get confronted, it is a realization like, ooh, maybe I need to bring this in internally and actually figure it out to see exactly what is truly and really going on with everything in my beliefs. And does this really fit and work for me, or does it not? So I was told a long time ago that respect was listening to what people had to say and then internally processing it and then bringing it in if it's true for you or not. And I was like, that's interesting way of looking at it. So respect was not doing what they said. Respect was listening to them and then figuring out whether or not it was right for you or not. And so that's kind of the belief and what I've taught even my kids growing up. It's like, you can listen to them and then figure out if it's for you or not. But the minute we argue about a belief, whether it's ours or triggering us or whatever, is the minute that we actually disrespect ourselves and them. So we got to watch those trigger points too and how they react and how we react to them throughout this world. Althea, what about for you?
I might add too, real quick. It depends on my mood too.
Well, it's kind of interesting because, okay, so I'm a Leo, and of course I want to rule as natural. However, I want to rule fair. I mean, I really do, because I know how it feels to be treated unfairly, right? So one of the things that I have constantly reminded my children, and I constantly work diligently to remind myself, is it doesn't matter what other people do. It matters what I do. Because that's really what it is. We're all an example. And I mean, quite frankly, nobody wants to be called out on any belief or, anything, action, anything. Nobody wants to be called out. It's not enjoyable. It's not a pleasant experience. And usually we walk away with wounds that we're like, oh man, now that triggers other stuff. And so it's like when you're paying attention to what you're doing, it is very important to know, like Shania says, are they just trying to pick a fight? Are they just trying to cause a problem? Because maybe they're in a bad mood. We've all had that child that, wakes up in a horrible mood, and it's like, okay, how do I deal with this? Well, my solutions are relatively simple. If you don't like it, don't do it. If you don't enjoy that being done to you, why would you do that to somebody else? And it's like when you're learning how to and what you believe, it really is like, what do you believe? Sometimes it is good to be challenged a tad bit because it encourages you to think a little bit deeper on a subject that maybe you hadn't before.
Right.
But it also gives you the opportunity to look and say, oh, maybe I do need to tweak that a little bit. Or maybe I do need to upgrade that. Or maybe I do need to shore up that belief, if that's what it is.
Mhm.
Because it's just like, it's like it's common courtesy. If you believe that you should hold the door for somebody that's coming in, and then, all of a sudden it's like the whole herd comes in and nobody says thank you, then you're kind of like, I don't believe I'm going to do that again. Or you can be like, you know what? It doesn't matter if they say thank you or not. I'm just going to hold the door because that's what I believe. I believe in common courtesy, so
Right.
I think if you're going to get challenged, you do have to be aware of what the situation is. Because there are some people that just are ready to fight all the time. And
Mhm.
well, usually they have high blood pressure. You know? Please don't explode in front of me. That's what I'm asking. And
Right.
so there you go. It happens.
Mhm.
But what do you do?
All right. Does anyone else have any other questions or angles they would like to discuss?
I'm good.
But isn't it amazing, like, or actually kind of also scary, how our beliefs has gotten us to the point in our world? Like, if you think about it, your beliefs have gotten you to the point where you are today. Good, bad, and indifferent. Whether you looked at your parents and go, yeah, that's not my life, or you looked at other people going, ooh, how can I have that? Or what is going on there? And bringing everything in. Or whether you just kind of followed suit and did the normal thing that everyone in the community has always done. It's still a belief, whether you're putting conscious thought to it or not. And I know a lot of times, like when we move through things and we're putting conscious thought to things, especially if you're in like a family dynamic that has never done that, it is not always the best situation because you're looked at being different. Like, how could you be doing that? What are you doing? They don't understand. They don't get it. But when you're putting conscious thought into things and you're moving through your life, it becomes a different dynamic than if you're just waking up every day and going about your life without any conscious thought. So how do you, ladies, put conscious thought into your day, in your beliefs?
Go ahead, Althea.
Today, aren't we?
It's a very okay. So, this is kind of how I base off the day, right? Okay, so if I'm about to do something, then I always ask myself kind of 3 questions. Is it breaking the law? No. Proceed forward. Is it hurting anybody I love? No. Proceed forward. Is it hurting me? No. Proceed forward. Those are kind of like my basis, because we can do a lot of things in this world, and some things are not very consequent. It doesn't matter, right? And then there's other choices and decisions that we have to make that really do affect long term, and sometimes we can't always see it. So I think if you have, this conscious thought of, these are my non-negotiables, I'm not going to break these ones for anybody. I don't care. And, because it's like, if it's going to get me to break the law, not going to do it. If it's going to get me to hurt somebody I love, not going to do it. If it's going to hurt me more than anything, then no, I'm not going to do it, because that's just the basis of it. So conscious thought, thinking of those kind of rules, like, it's very important to have that. Is it a good way to start your day? Yeah, it is. Because I think you've got to have some guidance, and you've got to have some things in place. And if there's universal laws, why not use them to govern yourself? Teach correct principles. You don't have to hold people accountable. If the principle is correct, they will hold themselves accountable. So that's how I feel about it. Right or wrong?
Right?
I guess I kind of set my intention for the day, usually the night before, because my mornings are hectic. And I send it out to the universe, and I'm like, I need to do this today and this today, and whatever, I lay out my day, and I set out little growth goals, I guess, but I ask them to help me to receive anything that I need for my journey, or for whatever's happening throughout the day. Please send in people in my path that need my help or my guidance, whatever. And if something is not for the greater good, please protect me from it, basically, and shield me, whatever. And I'm always asking for new information and new truths and stuff like that. So I try to keep my mind open, instead of a period after everything. I try to keep everything open so that energies can come in that need to come in to correct where the direction I'm going, or for me to receive information or guidance that I need or whatever. So, and then I also started a couple weeks ago, starting throughout in the morning and then throughout the day, how can today get any better than this? Because keeping that question mark there is allowing that energy to come in, instead of saying, man, this is the best day ever, it can't get any better than this. Then it's not going to get any better than this. Or, you wake up, stub your toe and pour coffee on yourself and you say, man, today is going to suck. Well, then today's going to suck. So, no matter what kind of day I'm having, I try to ask myself throughout the day, how can today get any better than this? And it really has helped. I mean, it sounds, lame or whatever, but it's it really has helped my energy and my days, and kind of uplifting even, because, I am allowing things to come in that need to come in, whether good or bad, everything's a lesson. So yeah, that's kind of how I set my days, I guess.
Yeah, for me, having the conscious thought and knowing like what it is I'm working towards has been a challenge at times, because it's like, there's times where we just want to get up and just do our routine, right? But what if your routine is not working for you? Then you need to go, okay, something needs to change. And then that's where the conscious thought comes in to go, okay, what needs to change? What is it do you really want? How is your life really flowing and moving? And so having that conscious thought is actually of really vital importance to creating the life, and maybe even changing some of those beliefs so we can have the life we desire. But we are coming up to the top of the hour. It's gone quick today, ladies. So one more time, just let everyone know how they can find you. Althea.
You can get a hold of me on Facebook via Althea Mitchell, or you can get a hold of me at Direct Emotion LLC on Facebook. You can also contact me on my website, which is directemotion.com, and get a hold of me that way.
Shania.
I'm Shania from Soul Therapy, and you can find me on Facebook through Soul Therapy, or through my personal name, Shania Melland. And I do have an email, I guess, soultherapy21 at outlook.com.
All right. And I am Majestic with Michelle with Healing with Michelle, and you can get hold of me with healingwithmichelleadams.com. That's my website, and you can find that under that title on Facebook also. So ladies, have a beautiful day. Thank you, everyone who's watching today.